I always thought the worst day of my life would come with warning signs. Bad dreams, strange omens, a gut feeling. But on that bright fall morning in Washington, D.C., the universe didn't bother with subtlety. It began with an explosion. Not literal, but close enough. My phone buzzed as I stepped out of the arrivals terminal at Reagan National Airport, dragging the one suitcase whose zipper I'd begged to survive the entire flight from Denver. I was already exhausted, already emotionally scraped raw from the last 48 hours. I'd come to D.C. for a job interview I wasn't qualified for, praying anything would help me outrun the financial crater my life had fallen into. But then, I saw the notification. Your apartment complex has been red-tagged. Immediate eviction for safety hazards. I stopped breathing. My home, my things, everything I'd fought to hold together. Gone. My knees threatened to melt right there on the curb, in front of 30 yellow taxis, impatient tourists, and a line of black SUVs waiting for important people. I swallowed hard, forced myself to inhale, exhale, inhale again. I wasn't going to cry in front of strangers. Not again. Not after last night's meltdown in the airplane bathroom. I wiped my eyes, marched to the curb, and raised my hand toward the nearest black SUV. The driver stood outside it. Tall, broad-shouldered, suit pressed sharper than any chauffeur I'd ever seen. He wasn't holding a passenger sign, but he looked at me the moment I looked at him. Not just looked, assessed. Cold, silver eyes sweeping over me like he could read every secret ID ever tried to bury. I swallowed again and forced myself forward. "Hi," I managed, my voice embarrassingly small. "Can you take me to—" The man didn't answer. He just opened the back door for me, with a controlled, elegant movement I definitely wasn't used to from taxi drivers. I blinked at him. Thank you?" He didn't smile, didn't speak, just waited. He had the kind of presence that made silence feel like pressure. The kind that made you want to explain yourself even when you'd said nothing wrong. I slid into the SUV, clutching my suitcase to my lap like a shield. When he closed the door, it felt like I'd voluntarily climbed into the world's quietest, most luxurious prison cell. He took the driver's seat with military precision, adjusted the mirror once, then pulled away from the curb. It was only when the airport disappeared behind us that I realized something unsettling. There was no meter. No digital fare display, no radio chatter, and the interior was far too nice. Hand-stitched leather, built-in chilled compartments, tinted glass. This wasn't a taxi. My stomach dropped. Excuse me?" He didn't respond. "Sir?" I tried again, leaning forward slightly. He glanced at me in the mirror. One eyebrow lifted with an authority that said, "Don't push it." I froze back against the seat. Okay. Maybe he was some kind of private car driver. Maybe someone had canceled on him, and he just didn't care who he took next. Still, something felt off. "I, need to go to the Midtown Suites on K Street," I said. "I, have an interview." "Noted," he said, in a voice deep enough to vibrate through the seat into my spine. It was the first word he'd spoken, and I wished he hadn't. It was too smooth, too commanding, too something. I tucked a strand of my hair behind my ear. "Are you with a company? Like a private car service?" "Yes." That one word didn't comfort me at all. "Okay," I said slowly. "Can I know the rate before we get there?" His eyes flicked to mine in the rear view again. "Rate?" Heat climbed my neck. "The fare. I'm on a tight budget." He studied me, and I felt that look in every place I didn't want to feel anything. "You don't need to worry about that," he said finally. "I kinda do," I whispered. Another long stare. "You're under my care. That's enough." Under his care? Who even talked like that? My pulse kicked up. Maybe I should have asked someone else. Maybe I should have waited for a yellow cab, no matter how long the line was. But we were already merging into DC traffic, and it was too late. I was stuck with a mysterious driver who looked like he could be a secret agent, or the man sent to kill one. To distract myself from spiraling thoughts, I turned to the window as we passed rows of historic brick buildings, fall leaves scattering across sidewalks busy with suited professionals. DC was beautiful, powerful, intimidating. Everything I wasn't. I exhaled slowly, letting my head fall back against the seat. "Thank you for taking me," I said quietly. He didn't respond, but I saw his jaw tighten. That was strange. We drove in silence until we reached the hotel. He pulled up under the awning and stepped out before I could touch the door handle. He opened my door again, effortless, controlled. I scrambled out, dragging my suitcase. Can I pay you now? Cash or card?" He stared at me. Actually stared, like he was the one confused. "You don't owe me anything," he said. I frowned. "But you drove me." "You requested a ride," he said, "and I provided it, that's all." "But..." Before I could finish, a man in an earpiece jogged over from the hotel entrance. "There you are, sir. We were tracking your route. The Prime Minister's team is already upstairs." I froze. "Sir? Prime Minister?" I turned slowly toward the driver. He wasn't a driver. He was a diplomat, a very important one, possibly the one the Prime Minister was here to meet. My skin went cold. "Oh my God," I whispered. "I thought you were the chauffeur." His jaw ticked, just barely. So I gathered. Humiliation hit me like a hot wave. My breath stalled. I'm so sorry. I didn't know." "You needed a ride," he said simply. "I gave you one." His calmness made it worse, like he was the adult and I was the flustered child. The man with the earpiece cleared his throat. "Ambassador Kellen, they've already begun the briefing." "Ambassador." The words slammed into me. I had mistaken a 45-year-old billionaire U.S. diplomat, one known for negotiating international crises, for my Uber. I wanted the sidewalk to swallow me. "I am so sorry," I whispered again. Ambassador Kellen, my not driver, studied me with that unreadable gaze. Silver eyes sharp enough to peel back every layer of my embarrassment. I should have walked away. Should have run. But my suitcase tipped, and I lunged to catch it, too late. Everything spilled across the sidewalk. My resume, my backup outfit, my cheapest drugstore makeup, my worn notebook filled with messy job applications. I dropped to my knees, mortified. People stared. Hotel guests stepped around me, annoyed. My eyes burned, vision blurring. A hand appeared in front of me. Large, steady, strong. I blinked up. Ambassador Kellen was kneeling beside me, a man who probably negotiated ceasefires before breakfast, gathering my scattered belongings without a single flicker of judgment. "Stop," I whispered, cheeks flaming. "Please, you don't have to." "You're overwhelmed," he said quietly. "Let me." His voice, low, controlled, unexpectedly gentle, cracked something open inside me. I sucked in a shaky breath. "You really don't have to help me." "Is that a refusal?" he asked, meeting my eyes. I shook my head, throat too tight to speak. He helped me to my feet, handed me the stack of papers, and closed my suitcase carefully. Then he stepped back, adjusting the cuff of his suit jacket with quiet precision. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lila," I whispered. "Lila," he repeated, as if testing the weight of it. "You shouldn't walk into your interview like this." I swallowed. "I'll be fine." "You won't," he said, not unkindly. "Not in this state." I hated how easily he read me, how transparent I seemed to him. But he wasn't finished. "Come inside for a moment," he said. "Get a glass of water, breathe, then go to your interview." I stared. Why do you care?" He looked at me for a long, almost burning moment. "Because you looked like you were about to break," he said softly. "And you shouldn't have to do that alone." My breath caught. I should have said no. Should have walked away from the powerful stranger who had stumbled into my ruined morning. But something in his voice, firm, steady, unexpectedly protective, swept past my defenses. I nodded. He turned, guiding me toward the lobby doors. But just before we reached them, another staff member rushed out, pale. "Ambassador, urgent update. Your meeting just shifted locations. Motorcade's waiting." He paused, back straightening. Authority slid over him like a second skin. Then his eyes returned to mine. "Go to your interview," he said quietly. "And Lila?" "Yes?" "This isn't finished." A shiver went straight through me. He stepped away, heading for the waiting security detail, leaving me standing in the doorway, heart racing, suitcase trembling in my grip. I had no idea how, why, or what it meant. But somehow, in the span of 20 minutes, I had collided with a man who did not belong in my world. And he wasn't done with me. I didn't see Ambassador Kellen again for 3 days. 3 very long, very humiliating days. After he disappeared into his motorcade, I'd stumbled into my interview at Midtown Suites with my hair frizzing from DC-TRS humidity and my nerves still vibrating from the stranger who wasn't a stranger at all. I didn't get the job. The hiring manager was kind, too kind, which was worse. She told me I had potential, but not enough experience. I nodded, thanked her, walked out, and wandered around DC until the exhaustion hollowed me out. By evening, I stood outside the hotel again, with nowhere else to go. My bank balance mocked me from my phone screen. $87, total. I couldn't afford another night in the hotel. I couldn't fly back to Denver. I didn't have a home to fly back to anymore. So I spent 3 nights in a 24-hour cafe near DuPont Circle, nursing 1 cup of coffee until the sky turned pink. I kept telling myself I didn't need help. I'd figure it out. But on the 4th morning, when I walked out of the cafe with my suitcase squeaking behind me like a dying hamster, I felt eyes on me. I turned. He was there, Ambassador Kellen, standing at the curb beside a government SUV, wearing a charcoal suit that looked too sharp, too expensive, to him. His stare pinned me in place. "How long?" he asked calmly. "Have you been sleeping in that cafe?" My stomach dropped. I wasn't sleeping. I was just resting. Lila. Just my name, but it felt like a truth detector. "How long?" I hugged my backpack tighter. 3 nights. His jaw flexed. Not in anger, something worse. A quiet fury, aimed entirely at himself. He stepped closer, his presence cutting through the morning chill. "You should have contacted someone. Anyone." "I don't have anyone." The words came out before I could swallow them back. He inhaled sharply, like the admission hit him somewhere he wasn't prepared for. "What about family?" he asked quietly. "That was my family." I pointed toward the cafe. The barista who didn't kick me out. He exhaled slowly, controlled, heavy. "I shouldn't have left you that day," he said. "You were shaking. You could barely hold your papers." "It wasn't your responsibility," I whispered. He studied me, eyes searching for something I didn't know I was showing. "Maybe," he said softly, "but it should have been." My breath caught. We stood like that, 2 strangers tethered by a moment neither of us understood, until a security agent cleared his throat from behind him. "Ambassador, the convoy is ready." Kellen didn't turn. His eyes stayed on me. "Are you safe?" he asked. Safe. Such a simple word. Such a complicated answer. "I will be," I said, trying to sound stronger than I felt. He didn't buy it. "Come with me," he said. I blinked. "Come. With you?" "I'm due at the embassy," he said. "There are guest offices, a quiet space, a meal, a locked door. You need rest, not caffeine and fear. I can't just walk into the U.S. Embassy with you." "You can," he said evenly. "Because I say you can." His certainty almost scared me. Not because it was dangerous, but because it felt like shelter, like safety I didn't deserve. "I'm not asking for anything from you, Lila." "I know," I whispered. "I'm offering." The world tilted, a slow, terrifying tilt toward something I hadn't felt in a long time. Being cared for, being seen. I swallowed, hard. "Okay." His shoulders eased, almost imperceptibly. He opened the SUV door and helped me inside as if I were something fragile. Maybe I was. The embassy was a fortress of red brick and guarded gates. Inside, everything smelled like polished wood and quiet power. The world Ambassador Kellen belonged to, and I didn't. He guided me down a private corridor to a small, elegantly furnished office. A couch, a desk, a window overlooking a garden. You can stay here as long as you need today, he said. I'll have someone bring food. I set my suitcase down. Thank you. He hesitated by the door, one hand braced against the frame. You don't owe me gratitude, he said. I owe you everything, I blurted before thinking. His expression changed, softened, darkened, conflicted. You owe me nothing. We stared at each other again, too long, too intensely. Something warm and trembling unfurled inside me. It was him who broke the moment. I have a briefing, he said quietly. Rest. I'll be back. When he left, the room felt too empty. I told myself it was because I was tired. That was all. But after I ate and lay on the couch, sleep came fast and heavy. I dreamed of footsteps approaching, a deep voice saying my name, silver eyes watching me in a way that made me feel safe. When I woke, the room was dimmer. And Ambassador Kellen was sitting in the chair across from the couch, watching over me. His elbows rested on his knees, his expression unreadable. My breath hitched. How long have you been there? Long enough, he said. You were crying in your sleep. Heat rushed up my neck. I have nightmares. They're stupid. Nothing about pain is stupid. Something inside me wrenched. He leaned back slowly, his gaze never leaving mine. Lila, what happened to you? I swallowed hard. Life happened. Wrong job. Lost apartment. Bad choices. People don T end up alone in cafes for 3 nights because of bad choices. His voice was gentle, not pushing. What aren't you telling me? My throat tightened. I shouldn't tell him. He was a diplomat, a man with power, with status, with everything to lose. But something about him, his steady presence, his impossibly calm voice, made truth feel inevitable. My ex drained my savings, I whispered. Took everything. Signed loans in my name. When I found out, it was too late. My credit sank. I lost my job. Then the eviction notice came and... I blinked rapidly, refusing to cry. Kellen didn't react with pity or judgment, only a slow, lethal quiet. What's his name? He asked. I shook my head. It doesn't matter. It does to me. Those words wrapped around my ribcage. You don't even know me, I said. I know enough. His jaw clenched. I know you've been surviving hell alone. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. He stood, walked toward the window, braced both hands against the glass. When I met you at the airport, he said, his voice low, I was on my way to mediate one of the most volatile diplomatic negotiations of the year, and all I could think about was the girl sitting in the back of my car, trying not to fall apart. My heart pounded. Why? He turned. Slowly. Deliberately. His silver eyes burned. Because something about you, he said, made me want to protect you in a way I haven't felt in years. I exhaled shakily. But I can't. He continued, voice thickening. I shouldn't. I'm not allowed to cross that line. Why? My voice cracked. Because I am a diplomat, he said. Because I'm constantly watched. Because people weaponize the slightest hint of impropriety. Because I'm supposed to be untouchable. I stepped off the couch. And me? You, he said, stepping closer, are exactly the kind of complication they would use to destroy me. The words should have broken whatever fragile thing had formed between us. But they didn't. They only made it clearer, sharper, more dangerous. You think I want to ruin your life? I whispered. No, he said, shaking his head. I think you could save it. The room fell silent. My pulse pounded so loud I could hear it. He took another step, close enough that I could feel the heat of his body. Lila. His voice was barely above a whisper. Tell me to walk away. I didn't. I couldn't. Instead, I breathed the truth neither of us wanted to admit. I don't want you to. A sound escaped him. Soft. Rough. Undone. He reached for me, then stopped, catching himself, fists clenching at his sides. I can't touch you, he said. If I do, I won't stop. My knees weakened. He turned abruptly, putting distance between us, fighting himself like the attraction was physically painful. Lila, this is impossible. My heart sank. So this is where you push me away. He didn't deny it. He didn't have to, because a knock sounded on the door. A security officer stepped inside. Ambassador, we have a situation. You need to see this. Kellen straightened instantly. What is it? The officer lowered his voice. It's about her. My stomach plunged. Me? I whispered. The officer nodded grimly. Your ex-boyfriend filed a police report in Colorado. He claims you stole several $1,000s before fleeing the state. My world spun. That's a lie, I cried. He stole from me. I know, Kellen said immediately, moving toward me, but he kept himself from touching me. The officer continued. The Denver police want to speak to her as soon as possible. My breath vanished. And then the officer said the words that shattered the room. They're considering filing charges. My knees buckled, and Kellen caught me, not touching me fully, but bracing me with his hands hovering near my arms, his control stretched to the breaking point. His voice dropped to something dark, dangerous. She's not going anywhere, he said. Not without me. For a moment, all I heard was the pounding of my own heartbeat, loud, frantic, like it was trying to escape my chest. Charges. Police. A report filed in my name. It felt like drowning. I gripped the edge of the desk to stay upright. My voice came out thin. I didn't steal anything. I swear, I didn't. Kellen raised a hand. Not at me, but at the security officer, who instantly stepped back. Leave us, Kellen said, his voice low, controlled, and terrifyingly calm. But sir, that wasn't a request. The officer vanished. The door clicked shut. Silence. Then Kellen turned to me, and for the first time since I'd met him, he looked shaken. Lila, he said softly, look at me. I did, my vision blurred, my breath sharp and uneven. You're not alone in this, he said. Not anymore. My throat constricted. They think I'm a criminal. No, he said firmly. He thinks you're easy to frame. I blinked back tears. What am I going to do? His jaw flexed. He stepped close, closer than he'd allowed himself before, and this time he didn't stop his hands. He touched my arms gently, grounding me. We're going to prove the truth, he said, together. Those words cracked something open, fear, hope, everything tangled. But you said, I swallowed. You said being near me could hurt your career. His eyes softened. Some risks are worth taking. He had no idea what that meant to someone who had spent months being told she wasn't worth anything. I sucked in a shaky breath. You don't even know how deep this goes. He forged my signature on loans. He stalked me when I left. He threatened me when I tried to report him. I ran because I didn't know what else to do. A shadow passed through Kellen's expression. Dark, lethal. He hurt you. There was no question in his voice, just certainty. He ruined everything, I whispered. No, he said. He tried. That's different. I let out a trembling exhale. I can't fight him alone. You won't. His voice gentled. I promise you, Lila. No one will harm you again while I'm breathing. My chest tightened. I believed him. I didn't know why, but I did. He released my arms only to take my hand, carefully, reverently, like he was afraid I might break. I'm calling a lawyer, he said, one of the best in D.C. Kellen, you can't. I can, he said simply, and I will. He pulled out his phone, dialed, and the entire room seemed to shift. Power radiated off him. Not the cold, diplomatic kind I'd seen in news clips, but something fierce and deeply human. He wasn't helping me because it was convenient. He was doing it because he cared. And that terrified me more than the police report. It all happened fast after that. A high-profile attorney arrived at the embassy within an hour. She listened to everything, asked precise questions, and then sat back with a grim smile. We'll dismantle him, she said. Every document he forged, every lie he told. He won't keep this up for long. But it wasn't over. The Denver police still wanted to speak to me. A video meeting was arranged. I sat beside Kellen at a polished conference table, hands trembling under the surface. The detective introduced himself and asked me to explain my side, My voice shook, but I told the truth, every humiliating detail. My ex's lies, the forged loans, my eviction, the desperation, the fear. The detective listened, expression unreadable. Then he asked, "Do you have anyone who can corroborate your character? Employers? Witnesses?" Before I could answer, Kellen spoke. "Yes," he said, voice steady. "Me." The detective blinked. "And you are?" "Ambassador Kellen Ward," he said. The detective almost choked. "Ambassador, sir? I didn't know you were—" "I am her witness," Kellen said calmly. "And her advocate." Heat flooded my cheeks. Advocate. Not protector. Not savior. Something equal. Something chosen. He continued. "I met Ms. Pierce at the airport 4 days ago. She was distressed, alone, and clearly the victim of financial manipulation. In my professional judgment, she is telling the truth." The detective nodded quickly. "We'll investigate. Thank you for your time." When the call ended, my breath finally eased. "You didn't have to do that," I whispered. "Yes," he said quietly. "I did." I stared at him, overwhelmed. "Why? Why are you doing all this for me?" His answer was simple. "Because I can't stand the thought of you being afraid." My heart stumbled. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, then at me. "They want me for a meeting," he said. "But it can wait." I shook my head. "No, you have responsibilities." He stepped closer. "I'm responsible for you, too." "You're not," I whispered. "I want to be." My breath caught, and then everything in me, every fear, every wall, fractured. "Kellen," I said softly, "I'm falling for you." He inhaled sharply. His control slipped, just barely, just enough. "I've been falling since the moment you climbed into my car thinking I was the driver." A shaky laugh escaped me. I was so embarrassed. "It was the best mistake you ever made." He lifted a hand slowly, carefully, giving me time to pull away. I didn't. His palm cupped my cheek, thumb brushing just below my eye. I leaned into the touch without meaning to. "Tell me this is what you want," he said, voice low and rough. "Tell me I'm not imagining this." "You're not imagining it," I whispered. The relief, the hunger, the tenderness that washed over his expression nearly undone me. He dipped his forehead to mine, exhaled shakily. "I've been holding back so long it feels like my entire body is wired to reach for you." "You can," I breathed. That was all it took. He kissed me, not like a man losing control, like a man finally letting himself feel. His hand stayed on my cheek, the other slipping to my waist. But nothing rushed, nothing devoured. It was slow, reverent, the kind of kiss that felt like a vow. When he pulled back, his voice was thick. "I'm not letting you disappear again." "I'm not going anywhere," I whispered. The next few days were a whirlwind. The Denver police found evidence my ex had forged transactions. The attorney dug up proof of his fraud. The false report crumbled under the weight of actual facts. The detective called to tell me the charges were dropped. I sobbed, with relief, with exhaustion, with everything I'd carried alone finally breaking free. And Kellen held me through all of it, not as a diplomat, not as a man struggling with forbidden feelings, but as someone who saw me, supported me, chose me. When the storm cleared, he offered to help me find an apartment, not because he wanted to fix my life, but because he wanted me in his. I moved into a small studio in Georgetown. He insisted on driving me there himself. When we stepped inside, boxes still unpacked, sunlight through the window, I turned to him. "So," I said softly, "what happens now?" He took my hands gently, as though they were fragile glass he'd vowed to protect. "Now," he said, "I stop pretending I don't want every part of your life intertwined with mine." I smiled through the warmth rising in my chest. That's a big promise, and I intend to keep it. He pulled me close, kissed my forehead, then my mouth. Slow, deep, full of quiet certainty. "I love you, Lila," he whispered. "You were never a complication. You were the clarity I didn't know I needed." My heart felt too full. "I love you too." And in that small Georgetown apartment, wrapped in his arms, I knew the truth. I hadn't mistaken him for the driver that day. I had mistaken the direction my entire life was about to take. It wasn't ruin I had stepped into. It was him. And he was home.